In 2008, Democrats turned Nevada from red to blue. Now, let's keep Nevada blue. Today's Keep Nevada Blue strategy is presented by Speaker of the Nevada Assembly, Barbara Buckley.
Kate said this is a time for us not to be partisan, and I agree with her to a certain extent. I'd like to pull out a quote from a book I was reading today and see if anyone can recognize who I'm talking about. His speeches left the impression of an army of pompous phrases, moving over a landscape in search of an idea. Sometimes these meandering words would actually capture a straggling thought and bear it off triumphantly, a prisoner in their midst, until it died of servitude and overwork. Who am I talking about? No. It's not Governor Gibbons. I know that's what you're thinking. President Hardy, the Teapot Dome scandal. But it reminded me so much of our governor, I couldn't resist. But despite having the worst governor in the country, it's absolutely essential that we come up with solutions for our state's problems. The governor is right when he says these are the worst economic times we've ever seen. Certainly in our lifetimes, it is. When you read, on Friday, Soros and Volcker were saying that our financial institutions could collapse, and it's not, we don't see an end in sight. I mean, it's sobering. And we just, have to hope and pray that President Obama and the team that he's assembled around him are going to do the best they can to get this country back on track after it's been ruined by greed and malaise and failure to institute even the basic regulation over our financial markets. But as I'm fond of saying in the Nevada legislature, it is what it is, and that's the hand we've been dealt. And we hope the stimulus package will be the first little jolt, and that there'll be a second plan and a third plan until we're back on track. The economy will recover. It's just a matter of when. And in the meantime, at a state level, we have to deal with this economic meltdown in a responsible way. Does it make sense, because revenue is down, to cut UNR and UNLV by 50%? No. Does it make sense to balance the budget solely by reducing the salaries of teachers when we're already 49th in the nation? No. I mean, does it make sense to abolish every organization that helps consumers in our state? The Office of Consumer Health Assistance, Consumer Affairs? No. I mean, there is no doubt that we're going to have a balance. There's no doubt that there's going to have to be some cuts because we have a $2.4 billion shortfall. You can't tax your way into prosperity, can't cut your way into prosperity. Like most things, we're going to have to approach it in a balanced way. What makes sense to me is that we don't balance our budget on the backs of teachers, state employees. We don't shut down programs, cancer care programs, and the essentials. But at the same time, we look at every program, we say, what can we cut? What can we reform, and what can't we live without? And if we do that, and if we approach it with our principles, that is, education has to be available as an opportunity for all, like we were given that opportunity. And if we approach it from a sense of, we can't kick the mentally ill and the mentally retarded out of their group homes, which is actually a suggestion by the governor to evict, I think it's 350 people from their homes. We just can't do that. It is immoral. It is immoral. And so what we need to do, fortunately, there are a number of Republicans in the legislature who are just as appalled at the governor's budget than the Democrats. And that's good news, because we need to work together on other alternatives. The good news is there are other alternatives, and working together we can enact them for the good of our state. In the meantime, we have some great bills pending down at the legislature. Stephen Horsford introduced a green energy jobs that we've been working on together to train for the jobs of the future. We have an opportunity with our stimulus package to gain millions and millions of dollars in renewable energy, and with our valuable resources, whether it's biomass, geothermal, solar, wind, we have an opportunity to train our workforce for the jobs of tomorrow, to capture this industry and create jobs. It makes sense, and we're going to give it our top priority down at the legislature. The other is we have about 5 different bills meant to stem the tide on the foreclosure crisis, including one that I sponsored to require mediation before an owner-occupied home is foreclosed on. What we hear so much of is some people who are still working, they want to refinance their home, but they can't because they're underwater. They now owe more than their house is worth. So no new lender will touch them. They try getting in touch with their existing lender. They can't get a phone call return because the loan's been sold so many times and securitized, they can't get anybody on the phone to talk to. So what we're going to do in this bill is we're going to make the lender actually show up to a mediation with a note, which they can't even find half the time. Just be willing to, in good faith, be able to mediate a resolution. The Nevada judiciary has jumped on board and said that they would support the program, and so we're just thrilled to be able to unveil this, and I believe the bill will be voted on this Wednesday. So it's kind of a two-punch approach, try to stabilize the housing market, so if we can keep homes from plummeting in value further, then we stabilize the residential market. At the same time, work on job training, job creation. So that's what this is all about now, creation of jobs. And then in addition to those 2 measures, I've been traveling around the state talking about ways that our state can be prepared better for the future. Creating a rainy day fund so that when times are bad, we have a place to go. That bill actually is going to be heard tomorrow morning before Kate Marshall. She'll have to wait for me tomorrow. It makes no sense to have a boom and bust cycle, to build up mental health clinics when times are good and then to close them when the economy tanks. I mean, does that make sense to anybody? No. So we're working very hard on overhauling our financial structure, looking at spending priorities, looking at a rainy day fund that works, re-looking at our tax system. Marilyn Kirkpatrick, another assemblywoman that I serve with, is just brilliant. She's been working for the past year on all of the tax breaks that have built up over the last 50 years. Times are tough. We just may not be able to afford all of the things that we once were able to. And if all of us are suffering, maybe some of the big business developers that have been getting some of these breaks are going to have to tighten their belts as well or see these breaks eliminated. I'm sponsoring one bill that would remove a number of these tax breaks and give the money to schools, all in the same bill. So I'm going to invite all my colleagues, make it really hard for them to vote against that one. So it's a sobering time, but it is a time of opportunity to look at everything we're doing, make sure it makes sense, try to get our state back on track through job creation, stemming the foreclosure crisis, deciding what's so important we have to get behind. And I think my message to you is our work's not over. You have done such a great job here in Douglas County. I mean, it seemed like 6 years ago we couldn't get 3 people in a room. And look at you all, through such hard work. I'm so impressed. I'm also so impressed to see some of the young people here. Young teachers, young students. We need you. You're our future. And sometimes we go to Democratic meetings and we feel like there's no one in the room under 40, I'll say. You know, I'm getting a little older than I myself, but we'll just use that. So we really welcome you and ask that you keep coming. And so if there is a silver lining, whether it's our economic times or what was done to our country by the past administration, is we're on a roll. You've done so much, and we have to keep going. We have to turn the governor's seat blue. We have to get a leader that cares about our state. And we need your support as the legislature grapples with all of these tough issues, knowing that you're behind us, knowing that you want a balanced approach and a state that you can be proud of. It'll make it a lot easier when we have to make the tough decisions that we do. So thank you very much for having me. Thanks for being so supportive of all of us, and I appreciate everything you do.
Keep Nevada Blue is a presentation of the Democrats of Douglas County, Nevada. Please subscribe to the Douglas Democrats YouTube channel now.